If the fall bite fell apart on you and everyone's blaming the turnover, here's what to do this weekend. Leave the deep water alone and go shallow. Fish the backs of creeks, the shallow flats, anywhere with wind blowing into it or current moving through, 5 feet or less. That's where the catchable fish are right now, and I'll show you exactly why. That's the fix. But stick with me, because the reason it works also tells you when the turnover isn't your problem at all, and most anglers blame it on days it had nothing to do with. Start with what's actually happening. You had a great summer pattern. You knew where the fish were, you were catching them, and then over about 3 days, it just died. Same spots, same baits, nothing. The water might even look a little off, murky, some foam, maybe a funky smell. And somebody at the ramp says the word, turnover. Here's what that word actually means, because most people say it without knowing. All summer, your lake was in layers. Remember the summer video? Warm, oxygenated water up top, a cold dead zone with no oxygen down deep, and the thermocline between them. The fish lived in that livable band, and everything below it was empty. In fall, the surface cools off. Cold water is heavier than warm water. So as the top layer cools night after night, it gets denser and heavier, until it's heavier than the water beneath it, and it sinks. The whole lake flips. The surface goes to the bottom comes to the top. That's turnover. And here's why it kills the bite. That deep water that comes up, it's the dead zone. All summer it sat down there with no oxygen, collecting decaying leaves, dead algae, muck. When it mixes up into the whole lake, 2 things happen at once. The rotting material starts pulling oxygen out of the water as it decomposes. And the whole column briefly drops to a low, stressful oxygen level everywhere. Not 0, but low enough that the fish feel it. The fisheries number is that warm water fish want around 5 milligrams of oxygen per liter to behave normally. Turnover can drag the whole lake down toward the 3 to 4 range for a stretch. And a fish at that level isn't thinking about eating, it's thinking about breathing. That's the real reason the bite dies. It isn't that the fish left, it's that the entire lake got briefly uncomfortable to breathe in, and a stressed fish doesn't chase. One pro put it perfectly. It's like when you're starting to choke. You're not worried about lunch, you're worried about your next breath. So now the fix makes sense. Go shallow. Here's the key thing almost nobody explains. The turnover happens in the deep water, because that's where the layers were. The shallows, 5 feet and less, were never stratified in the first place. There was no dead zone under them to churn up. So the shallows stay stable, oxygen stays fine, and the fish that are there stay catchable. 2 kinds of fish are shallow right now. The ones that live shallow year-round and never got the turnover headache. And the deep fish that are actively fleeing the bad water, moving up to breathe. Either way, shallow is where the willing fish are. And because those fish are stressed and neutral, not aggressively feeding, you fish for a reaction, not an appetite. Cover water, move fast. Crankbaits, spinnerbaits, a swimming jig, something that triggers a lek strike rather than asking a sluggish fish to decide it's hungry. Bang it into cover. Make it erratic. You're not tempting a feeding fish. You're startling a neutral one into reacting. Now, the part that matters most, because it'll save you from blaming turnover on days it isn't the problem. The turnover is not the excuse people use it as. It's real, but it's smaller and shorter than the legend. First, most lakes don't turn over all at once. On a big reservoir, the upper end and the lower end flip at different times. So if the bite's dead where you are, run. Go to the dam if you were up a creek, or up a creek if you were at the dam. You can often just drive away from the turnover to a part of the lake that hasn't flipped yet. Second, it doesn't last. It's a few days to a week or 2, not a season. And what comes after it is the best fishing of the year. Once wind and cooler nights re-oxygenate the whole column, the fish have the entire lake available to them for the first time since spring, and they feed hard getting ready for winter. The fall feed after turnover is legendary for a reason. So the turnover isn't the fall. It's a short bad patch right before the best part. And third, this is the big one. A lot of water barely turns over at all. Rivers don't stratify, so they don't turn over. Lakes with steady current or constant wind stay mixed all summer, so there's nothing dramatic to flip. And shallow lakes, ponds, most water under about 10 or 12 feet, never had a real dead zone to chur up. If you fish water like that and the bite died, the turnover probably isn't your answer at all. It's a cold front, or a pressure change, or the fish just moved. And blaming turnover means you stop looking for the real reason. That's the trap. Turnover is the most overused excuse in fall fishing because it sounds scientific and it lets you off the hook. But it only genuinely applies to deep, still lakes that actually stratified, and even then, only for a week or two. So here's the whole thing. If you're on a deep, calm lake and the bite died over a few days and the water looks off, yes, it's probably turnover. Go shallow, fish reaction baits, or run to a part of the lake that hasn't flipped. And know it's temporary, with the best bite of the year right behind it. But if you're on a river, a windy lake, or shallow water, don't blame the turnover. Something else shut them off. And the sooner you stop using that word, the sooner you'll figure out what. The fall bite isn't gone. For a week or two, it just moved shallow and got grumpy. Tell me in the comments, has your lake turned over yet this year? And did the bite come roaring back after? I want to hear how long the funk lasted where you fish.